What is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to Fireside Rangers. I'm your host, Eric Wilson. Today, joined by my co-host, Collin Alcaves. Today, we're going to be doing a little bit of a discussion here about Mika Zibanejad. Everyone knows him. Everyone loves him. But this season, he hasn't been that good. So what that poses the question, what should the Rangers do about it? Do they stick it out, hope that he'll turn things around like he always does? Or should they consider moving him? Because power play, it's come to a screeching halt. 5v5 continues to be terrible. And that combination of Chris Kreider and Mika Zibanejad, it ain't really working this season. I know the Rangers kind of popped off last night, put up 7 goals, dropped a touchdown on the Senators, both Kreider and Zibanejad. They did record a few points, but one game doesn't change the entire story. Zibanejad has been pretty bad this season. No denying that fact. So we're going to get deep into this discussion real quick. But before we do, make sure you guys like, subscribe, ring the bell so you don't miss notification. If you're watching us on Apple or Spotify, be sure to give us a 5-star review. Follow us on all of our social media platforms at Fireside Rangers on Instagram, X, and TikTok. That's right, Collin. You missed that. We have a TikTok now. And lastly, be sure to drop your comments down in the comment section below on Mika Zibanejad. If you're Chris Drury, do you keep him around? Do you trade him away? Let us know. But before we really get into things, Collin, welcome back to the show. How you doing today?
Good. It's good to be back. I've been working like a dog, so to be able to get some time to jump on the pod, I've been missing it for sure.
Well, we're happy to have you back. Let's just get right into this Mika Zibanejad discussion. Recently, he's been terrible. He only has 1 goal in his last 14 games played. The guy who's supposed to score all of our power play goals with that infamous one-timer. He stopped scoring goals. That 1 goal he scored, I think it was a power play goal against Vegas in a loss. And then after that, he's just been completely non-existent, which it's kind of crazy, though, because he does have a decent amount of points. You know, he has 46 points in 48 games played so far this season. So he's close to a point per game. A lot of them are assists, though, as we know, only 15 goals on the season. It's kind of rare from him. Just Collin, what are your thoughts on his play recently? Do you consider him to be bad, or are all the assists that he's been piling up, are they enough for you to say keep him around?
I think his play has just lacked the normal pop that it does. I think his defense has taken a step back this year considerably. And I don't know why that is, because Laviolette came with a defense-first system, and it seems to have not really translated for Mika for some reason. And if you look at the point totals, like 46 and 48 isn't bad, but when you look, 21 of his 46 points are on the power play, 7 of his 15 goals are on the power play, and that's not a sustainable statistic to live and die on the power play like the Rangers do. You need to have guys who don't do that. And so far this season, the only player who hasn't lived and died by the power play, or players, I should say, are Trocheck and Panarin. Everybody else is gripping to the power play, hoping that they can scrounge up some points, and that's kind of how Mika's been able to survive so far. I mean, obviously, he'll get going down the road, I'd like to think, but he hasn't really shown a whole lot of promise so far in this first half of the season. So am I going to say he's bad? From what I've seen so far, it hasn't been great, but he's still better than a lot of options out there.
Yeah, I think one thing that we do need to consider is that this is kind of normal for Zibanejad. As much as I hate to say it, every single season, right? He starts off really slow, and then around this time of year, like February, March, like we all know what Mika March is. That's when he actually starts to be good. So I think there is still definitely the possibility where he's going to have an incredible second half turnaround. He's still going to finish this year with like 40 goals, but I don't know if something just seems different this year because Chris Kreider has also not been that good. And as we know, they don't really have a suitable right winger there. Blake Wheeler somehow has started to turn things around and he's scoring goals. But again, like overall, I'm still very firm on the fact that heading into a playoff run, I don't want Blake Wheeler as my first line right winger. I think the Rangers still do need to go out and get someone else. But, you know, it's like, what do the Rangers do to get this to heat up? Because you can't really break up that first line. As much as Chris Kreider and Mika Zibanejad have not been playing well together, you can't really break them up without touching that second line. You know, as we know, Panarin, Trocheck, Lafreniere, easily the best offensive line throughout the entire season so far. So you don't want to touch that. But then if you break up Kreider or Zibanejad, one of them has to get put into the bottom 6. I would assume that it's Kreider because you don't really want Mika Zibanejad on the third line, and then who's going to center your top line. So you can't, I feel like, in my opinion, you can't really break it up that line. So it's either you just stick it out and hope things get better, or you look for a trade for Zibanejad. I think at this point of the season, I'm definitely on the side of don't trade away Zibanejad and kind of hold out to see if things start to heat up in the second half. But it's a risky game there because if something doesn't change and he continues to play poor hockey, the trade deadline passes. What do? You're stuck entering a playoff run with your top centerman not playing good hockey. But I don't know, just on breaking up that first line to kind of change things around. Do you think that's an option? How would you do it if you're Laviolette there?
I mean, obviously, if you're Laviolette, it's something that you're monitoring and keeping an eye on. Breaking it up would definitely be tough for the reasons you just listed, on top of the fact that it probably wouldn't go so well between Kreider and Mika because they've been playing together forever. They have the chemistry, and I don't think either of them will be happy being put in the bottom six, just knowing that their skill set. I think it's frustrating for them as much as it is for us because we know that they're both capable of being better. We've seen them be better, and for them to play at the level that they have been, where Mika is just kind of struggling night in, night out. I'll cite one point that sticks out to me is that overtime loss to the Sharks. Yeah, there was a little bit of a pick play, but the guy just leaves in the middle of the play to go pick up his stick. You can't do that. It's 3-on-3. So bing, bang, boom. K'Andre Miller's stuck in the middle of a 3-on-1 somehow. And it's like, where was Mika? You can't stop playing hockey to go and get your stick in the middle of it. You have to play the body and do whatever you can to not let up the odd man rush. So, that's like the type of play that we're not used to seeing him make, and it's been a little bit more frequent this season. And Kreider, I mean, we've known that for a while. He's had consistency issues. He used to be the most consistently inconsistent player, and that's why he could never hit that 30-goal mark. And then he finally broke that stigma and hit 52. And then last season, I believe he hit 30 again. So obviously, he was on a heater to start the season, but he's cooled down as expected. But I don't know. In order for that line to succeed, they both need to be playing at like all world caliber levels that we know that they can, and they're both clearly taking a step back. Hopefully, they can shake that off and get back to playing how we know that they can. So that way, we have two solid lines of scoring with some secondary scoring from the bottom six.
I mean, that would definitely make our lives and the Rangers' lives a whole lot easier if everyone just started playing good hockey again. But I don't know. Heading into the year. And then watching how amazing the Rangers were to start off the season, I kind of expected this trade deadline to be very minuscule. Just go out, maybe get like a new fourth liner, a depth defender, and that's it. Like we had the perfect core already. But as the season's progressed, I'm kind of thinking that in like a month or so, when the trade deadline does come around, the Rangers might need to make a little bit bigger of a splash. Maybe not as big as last season when they went out and got Kane and Tarasenko, but maybe one player of that caliber. And I don't know if it's gonna involve a Zibanejad trade. I would say probably not. Everyone knows that Mika's gonna probably heat up in the second half of the season, but something big is gonna happen. Now, just for the sake of the discussion, let's say Chris Drury does say enough's enough. It's time to get rid of Mika and bring in like a big time player to really just fix this first line. One, I'm not even sure if it's possible. He probably has a no trade clause as a part of his contract. Once again, as we do for every possible trade discussion, we have failed to figure out if he does have one or not. But let's just say, again, for the sake of the discussion, he has one. It's waived. He's like, all right, you can move me. What are you looking for in return, right? Because obviously the Rangers are Stanley Cup contenders. They've been going through a little bit of a slump. Yeah, but we've seen what they can do when they're good, and they're gonna reach that point again. They're gonna get out of the slump. I'm not too worried right now. But if you're gonna move a guy like Zibanejad in order to bring in like this one player that's gonna make you actual Stanley Cup champions, it's gonna have to be a pretty big package there. Zibanejad's a consistent point per game player. I think the last few seasons he's probably finished like second in Rangers point scoring behind Panarin because no one's going to catch up to Panarin. So you're going to have to give me a big time player. I don't know if it's going to be a blockbuster trade if it happens, maybe like a Braden Point type of player, but Tampa probably not going to move on from him. So I don't know. It's going to be a massive deal if Drury decides to move Zibanejad, but I'm curious to know what you think this kind of trade package would yield.
I mean, you look at a guy like Zibanejad in his past, he definitely has been right below us, it says a star center. And I still think that, even though he's not playing some of his best hockey, he still is considered a star center around the league on a relatively good deal, by the way. He's under contract for a decent amount of time not at a manageable cap hit, for especially for the way that the cap is going down the line. That contract will look better and better if he can, bounce back. So, but I think you're right in saying that it would definitely take a considerable package. I'm not saying that I'm like set on moving him, but if the right package came along, I don't know that I'd say no. Obviously, if it included, a young up and coming center and like some pieces that would help us win now and provide us some depth, while also, they'd have to retain some cap and things. Like, so many things would have to happen. But if it was a move that bolstered the Rangers' depth while also not considerably taking away our center strengths, I'm not entirely opposed. Like I said, nobody's ever untouchable this year. I mean, I'll say Shesterkin and Panarin and probably Fox are untouchable for me. But other than that, I'm game to listen on everybody. I'm not saying trade everybody, but I'm down to listen to what people are offering and just take it from there. But there's so much season left, so there's definitely still a lot of time for him to turn it around and totally prove me wrong. And basically every time we come on here and crap on a guy, he usually turns it around. So we're hoping that's the case here.
That's a very valid point. Just don't be surprised if this video goes up and then the All-Star break ends and then Zibanejad comes back with like a 6-goal game again. Like, you had a 6-goal game, right? It was something crazy.
I think it was 5. I think it's 5-1, against Capitals.
Yeah, that was a crazy game. But I did look it up. Mika Zibanejad does have a no move clause, so any trade Zibanejad would have to be okay with it. I can't imagine that he would be, being an alternate captain on the first line of the New York Rangers. But just on a side note here, I just want to point out, of all the players that have no move clauses and no trade clauses on the New York Rangers, there is no reason on heaven or earth that Barclay Goodrow should have a 15-team no trade list. That's like, he's the most out of anyone. Like, Jonathan Quick has a 10-team no trade list. Igor has a 10-team no trade list. Blake Wheeler has a no trade clause for some reason. No move clauses, just Kreider, Panarin, Trocheck, Trouba, Zibanejad. And then for some reason, Barclay Goodrow is just 15 teams. Anyways, but I guess to wrap up, like, we kind of went over some points, like how he's been playing bad, how he's probably going to start playing good, what it would take to make the trade happen. Just to answer the question, should the Rangers consider trading away their star center? I'm gonna say no. I think it's definitely a firm no for me. Yeah, he's had a rough start to the season. He does that every year. He always heats up, and I think there are ways to fix it without completely trading away a guy who's been with the team, one of the best players for the team over the most recent couple of seasons. Even if he starts playing really bad and Laviolette has to give him a healthy scratch for a game just to wake him up and send him a message, demote him to the second power play, get like someone else some power play one time, Lafreniere maybe. I think there are ways that you can fix this problem within the organization that isn't just blowing it all up and shipping him off to San Jose or anyone who wants to take him. I guess anyone would take Mika Zibanejad at this point. But yeah, I'm going to put my foot down, give it a hard no. I'd be shocked if it happened. I'd be very upset if it happened. And that's my take on it. I'll let you give your thoughts, your final take, and then we can wrap it up here.
I'll say, in my opinion, I'm also probably going to lean towards no. I mean, you can't just, as New York fans, we love to do it, but overreacting is our strong suit. I expect him to bounce back. It's just frustrating because, like I said before, we know what type of player he is. We know what level he can play at, and for some reason, it's just not happening. I mean, his shot on the power play hasn't even looked that good. I feel like he's always shooting it just a little too far to the left, and he's not even hitting the net, or he's not elevating the shots. And it's like, what's happening? What's off? Maybe a little less DJing and a little bit more time on the ice in the off season. But, I think that obviously you're right in saying that he does start the season pretty slow. I'd love to see him change that stigma. But Mika March is right around the corner, and hopefully that'll jumpstart him and get him going right in time for the playoffs and the playoff stretch that we're hoping to have this season. But, if we want to see the team continue to have success, like the success we had prior to this new year, obviously, then we need to see him playing at an all-star caliber level. And if you look, in that November stretch where we were having a really good season, he had just started to get going. December, he was on fire. And then literally since January, he's hit a wall. Obviously, he's still getting the assists, but they're mostly the secondary assists on empty netters. He's had a couple primaries that have been important, but against teams that really aren't that good. I mean, he had 2 last night against Ottawa, and like yeah, they were nice, and I'd welcome those all the time, but he hasn't been making those plays consistently. So, I'd love to see him figure out what's going on. Maybe, Laviolette does something to try and send a message and just get him going and light that fire under him, because he seems to be a little lost right now. But, whatever it takes, I'm sticking with Mika. I got the jersey. I don't want to see him go anywhere. I want to see him figure it out.
Yeah. Zibanejad is one of the few players that I actually don't have his jersey. Maybe, just maybe, I would have bought a Stadium Series Zibanejad jersey this year if our jerseys weren't complete garbage that looked like they were designed by like a 10-year-old. But I guess we never gave our thoughts on that on the channel. Collin, do you like the jerseys? Because I don't.
I think they're okay in comparison to some of the other ones I've seen. The Islanders one is god.
The Islanders one is worse, and that's all that matters.
It's terrible. And then the Flyers one is just the away Flyers jersey with different colors on the sleeve. The Devils one is actually not bad, but don't tell Devils fans I said that.
Yeah, the Devil ones are all right. I think if I were designing them, though, I would have swapped the colors a little bit there. I forget. It's because it's the red jersey with the black logo, and I would have done like a black jersey with like a vibrant red Devils thing. But I don't know. This isn't Fireside Devils. I don't like the Rangers one. I get what they're doing. They're trying to get like bold and pop colors and lights and everything. But I don't know. I think we have the best of the four, but I still don't like them.
The bar's on the floor. Yeah,
the bar was set extremely.
I don't think they're too bad. I think that they're growing on me, but like based on some concepts that you and me saw and we're talking about in the chat with Will and Tony, I would have liked to have seen those over this. But like I said, every day I see it and it's like, it gets a little bit better. I'm sure it'll look sick when they have the whole thing together with the gloves and the helmet and the socks and everything, the pants. Like I think it'll look good together as a unit. But I think the jersey as a standalone, am I rushing out to buy one? No chance.
Yeah. Anyways, we got a little sidetracked there, but that about wraps up this discussion about Mika Zibanejad and the new Stadium Series jerseys that were released. I'm glad to see that we're both on the same page here. Do not trade Mika Zibanejad. Who knows? Maybe when they go out and they get that new right winger, it'll be someone good enough to just like flip the switch like that, and then the whole first line is producing like crazy. But we'll see what happens in about a month. The trade deadline is still a little bit of time away. But that about wraps up today's episode. Thank you to everyone for watching. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, ring the bell so you don't miss notification. If you're watching us on Apple or Spotify, be sure to give us a 5-star review. Leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. Do you agree with us, or do you think it's time to send Mika Zibanejad away from the New York Rangers and out of New York City, DJing and all? And lastly, be sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms at Fireside Rangers on Instagram, X, and TikTok. All right. Thanks again. We'll be covering the All-Star game and everything soon, and New York Rangers content every day. Have a good one, and
let's go Rangers.